Welcome back, everyone, to another segment of Rabbi Jeff's Pirkei Avos, where we attempt to understand the meaning behind the instructions of our sages and how it's relevant to our lives today. We do this, of course, using the thoughts of our teachers before us and try to make them applicable to our times. Feel free, please, to contact me with any comments or questions at rjfromlj@aol.com. Okay, this morning's Mishna is Mishna Yud Perek Aleph, Mishna Yud Beis, first chapter, Mishna 12. Today we'll get into some of the details of this Mishna, which I think will bring us to a very, very beautiful and unique understanding of Aaron and of the concept of Ohev Shalom v'Rodev Shalom, of loving peace and pursuing peace. So Hil v'Sham ekiblu mehem, Hil Omer hevi mitavinim shel Aaron, that we should be from the students of Aaron. Ohev Shalom v'Rodev Shalom, love peace and pursue peace. Ohev es abrios, love people, umekarv on the Torah, and bring them closer to Torah. So if I were to ask you, what is this Mishnah saying? So the Mishnah is saying that you have to love people, and you have to love peace, pursue peace. Peace has to be your main objective and your main goal in life. And you have to love people. He really, Brios seems to be talking about humanity, and Mekarvan the Torah, bring them closer to Torah, doesn't necessarily mean to make converts, but it means to bring them closer to the emes, to the truth of Torah, and to the truth of God. And if you think that that's what the Mishnah is teaching you, then as a principle that we laid down in the first class, why would I need a Mishnah to teach me that you have to love peace? You know, I don't need a movement to tell me that I need to love peace, and I don't need a dictum to tell me that I have to love peace. There has to be something more than that coming out of this Mishnah. And one of the ways that I know there's something more than that, because it says, having me talmid of shel Aaron, you have to be from the students of Aaron. There's no reason to have to say to be from the students of Aaron. Just say, Ehov, like we said, Ehov es malacha in the previous Mishnah. So then just say over here, Ehov es Shalom. Love peace, be committed to peace. But it's throwing in Aaron for a reason. Having me talmid of shel Aaron. So that's the first thing we have to uncover, is why is Aaron being connected with Shalom? Plus, it's interesting. We don't really know that Aaron is connected with Shalom, other than the fact that when he died, all of Klal Yisrael went nuts. Right? All of Klal Yisrael was in mourning. The Torah tells us that, but it doesn't say why. There's no indication of Aaron's. Now everybody knows the very famous medrash that talks about how Aaron would go and he would see a guy, two guys that were fighting. He would go over to the first guy and he would say to the guy, "Oh, I understand you're fighting." The other guy, I should know. I spoke to him and he feels so bad and he wants to apologize to you, but he doesn't have the strength to be able to come to you. So he would go to this second guy and he would say to him, I understand you're having a hard time with the other guy. He really feels bad. He wants to come and apologize, but he doesn't have the strength to apologize. The two guys would see each other. They would assume that each guy wanted to apologize, but was just too weak to do it. But as long as they knew that the guy was going to apologize, that was enough for them. And they were able to make Shalom. And this way, Aaron made Shalom. Beautiful. It's a beautiful medrash. Beautiful medrash, but it's not in the Torah. We don't have any indication of that in the Torah. So if Aaron was such an important person, and that's what we're referring to the fact that he was an Ohev Shalom v'Rodev Shalom in that sense. So then why not say that more explicitly in the Torah? If this is what's demanded of us, to be from the students of Aaron, then why not just say that in the Torah? Okay. Furthermore, what we have to know is that I don't know if I'm going to answer this question, but it's a little funny that that's the way Aaron made peace with people, because you got to imagine that at some point they're going to figure it out. Like they're going to talk to their friends and figure out that they didn't really want to forgive the other guy, but Aaron worked it out that way. And then eventually it would become known in Klal Yisrael, run away from Aaron, because he's gonna when he tells you that the other guy wants to make Shalom, you know that he's full of baloney. He knows eventually the whole system is going to fail. So why was that considered such a great thing? Plus, Aaron wasn't telling the truth. When he would go over to somebody and say to them, the other guy really wants to make Shalom with you, it wasn't true. How's that okay? Now, I understand you're going to tell me that, wait, we all know that it's mutar l'shanos mibnei hashalom, that you're allowed to lie in order to be able to make peace. That whole concept is a very, very difficult concept. Besides the halachic reality of that concept is difficult, how do you apply a concept that says that it's okay to lie in order to be able to make shalom? Like shalom bayis is the most important thing. So a person goes and he has, he does something that's also, does something that's prohibited, and then, he comes home and his wife says, "Where were you?" "Oh, I was bowling with the boys." Right? And, oh, that's okay. Like, it's not a problem because you're allowed to lie in order to be able to keep shalom bayis. It doesn't make sense. Plus, it doesn't make sense that shalom is more important than truth. Emes is chais mashal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the seal of God. You would imagine that truth is the most important thing in this world. We live for truth. So why would you say that shalom is greater than truth? Okay. So I think that we have to understand like this. I think that we have to understand that normally we would say that the opposite of shalom is machlokas. The opposite of shalom is, the opposite of peace is machlokas, is when things separate and are contentious. An example, the Mishna talks about a machlokas l'shem shamayim. Mishnah talks about an argument for the sake of heaven, and the Mishnah says later in Pirkei Avos that an argument for the sake of heaven will endure. An argument that's not for the sake of heaven will not endure. An example of an argument that's not for the sake of heaven is Korach va'adaso. What's fascinating is that those are not protagonists. They were not really fighting against each other. Korach va'adaso were poised against Moshe v'Aaron. It should have said the machlokas of Korach and Moshe and Aaron. But instead it says Korach va'adaso because since they were not l'shem shamayim, there was even contention, there was even strife and rift within that group. Within the 250 adherents of Korach, there was fighting there also. And that's how you know that it's not l'shem shamayim, and it didn't endure. However, machlekes l'shem shamayim is fascinatingly Hillel and Shammai, exactly what we're dealing with now. Hillel is the person that says that you have to love shalom, oiv as a shalom, oiv shalom v'rodiv shalom, and the Hillel and Shammai, their machlokes is actually an example of a machlokes l'shem shamayim, which means that it's going to survive. Now, that's a strange thing. I want machlokas to survive. I don't care if the machlokas is l'shem shamayim or not l'shem shamayim. Why do I want machlokas to survive? Why do I want machlokas to endure? That, this is a good thing, machlokas l'shem shamayim, that's going to be miskayim, that's going to endure. Why do I want any kind of machlokas to endure? And that means that if you see machlokas that is enduring, can you assume then that is a machlokas l'shem shamayim? Because that's the hallmark of a machlokas l'shem shamayim, is that it endures. So if I see, the Hatfields and the McCoys are fighting with each other for 50 years, I can assume that, the reason that they're fighting with each other is because it's really based on the shem shamayim. So I'll tell you, I think is an amazing thing, that the word machlokas is a nasty word, but it's only a nasty word when we use it in a nasty way. Machlokas is the connotation of that word is strife and contention, but the truth is that machlokas really means division, lechalek, to divide, and the truth is it's not really a terrible thing inherently, because we are in fact different people. We're taught that there's no two partsufim that are the same. There are no two faces that are the same. There are no two people that are the same. That's why we make a bracha when you see 600,000 Jews standing together. We make a bracha because God knows and understands the 600,000 different personalities. It's like fingerprints. That like a fingerprint, there are no two fingerprints that are alike. There are no two personalities that are alike. Everybody is mechulak. Everybody is completely different. We're unique. We're separate. We have separate abilities. Everybody has their own space. If we weren't different and we occupied the same space, we'd kill each other because we would see each other as competition. You're in my space. Take two people in different professions. You take a doctor and a bricklayer. So a doctor and a bricklayer don't really have any kind of contention or jealousies between each other because they each know that they play a different role. Doctor does his thing, bricklayer does his thing. Even take two different kinds of doctors. You take a pediatrician and an internist. They're doing two completely different things, and each one understands their place. Not only do they understand their place, they understand the necessity of the other person and having a connection with the other person. The way we achieve our own space in a healthy, comfortable kind of way is that we understand that we're different and that we have a clear differentiation and a clear definition of who we are. And okay, I'm sorry. I have to close my window. I'm bothering my neighbor. Apologize. Okay, so that in order to be able to achieve shalom, so we have to, in order to be able to achieve our own space, then we have to know that we're different and we have a clear definition of who we are. And when we have a clear definition of who we are, then we have room for other people. In other words, I know that I occupy this space. This is what I do here in this world. This is what my tachlis and my purpose is. This is what I am. This is what I'm doing. And this is what you're doing. And this is who you are. And this is the space that you occupy. And once each of us is comfortable with the spaces that we occupy, there's room for each other. You're not a competition to me. You're not taking away from me. You're not detracting from my existence. You're actually enhancing my existence. I am part of yours. You are part of mine. A machlokes of strife comes only when we're not clear about our spaces. This was the reason why God wasn't afraid of splitting us up into Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim. Because if everybody understands their role, if everybody understands their place, the Kohanim have a place in Klal Yisrael. The Leviim have a space in Klal Yisrael. The Yisraelim have a space in Klal Yisrael. Right? Kohanim ba'avodasam, Leviim b'shirim uzimram, they're doing the avodah, they're singing, they're the backup team, the ma'amados, right? The Jewish people that they're split into 24 groups along with the Kohanim, and that they're davening and that they're learning. There's the support team for the rest of the Kohanim. If everybody understands their space, so then there is no machlokes. We're going to learn a Mishna in the second chapter that says that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had 5 students. And it tells us about Rabbi Yochanan's 5 students, what he praised each student with. And this one was a bor sid that that it was like a cemented cistern that didn't lose a drop. And this one was this one was this. And the commentaries look at it and say, wait a second, why would a Rebbe say that about his Talmidim in front of the other Talmidim? Why would you praise them in front of the others? It's as if saying that, this one's my favorite because he's this, and this one's my favorite. And it would only create machlokes. It's only going to create strife. So it's a beautiful explanation. That no, davka, that's what creates the shalom. Because when he was able to define his students and he was able to say, this one has a memory that's like amazing, and this one has a breadth of knowledge that is awesome. He was putting them all in their places and telling them, this is who you are, this is who you are, this is who you are. Once each one of them understood their place, they understood how they all 5 interacted together and made one whole. And then there was no longer any machlokes, dafka no longer any machlokes, because everybody appreciated everybody else's space. Machlokes, strife machlokes comes when we don't understand the chiluk, when we don't understand the differentiation, the space of who we are, and we don't have a clear vision of who we are, what our kochos are, what our powers are, what our capabilities are, what our abilities to be able to accomplish are, what role we play in this world. When we don't have that, that's when we have machlokes, that's when we have strife. So what's shalom? Shalom is understanding that even though we have our space, that's not enough to make shalom. It's enough for us not to have machlokes. But what's going to bind us together? There is an incredible thing in the Torah. The Torah tells us, with the Midrashim also, the Torah tells us that when we were split into the Golim, we were split into flags in the desert, every tribe had their own flag. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu was very worried about that, because Moshe was worried that once you identify a tribe with its flag, and the flag was a symbol of what that tribe was, so then there was going to be a rivalry. My flag's better than your flag, right? And we're cooler than you are, and that there was going to be a natural strife because of that division in Klal Yisrael. God assured him it wasn't going to happen. Stop there for a moment. The Medrash says that the nations of the world saw the flags of the Jewish people, and they were mis'aveh. They desired the flags. Now, they sent a message to the Jewish people, we want your flags. So Moshe Rabbeinu sent back to them, you can have your own flags, you can do it also, but what exactly were they desiring? They were desiring a shmata with a picture on it. Right? They didn't have a Betsy Ross that could sit there and make a flag. But they needed they needed to want the flags of the Jewish people. Like, what did they want the flags of the Jewish people for? What was so special about the flags? Look, we were just coming out of Mitzrayim. It wasn't like we had great artisans. We know that because of the whole Mishkan thing. So what were the flags that they were nisava? No, what they were nisava is that normally when you put flags up, when you make divisions in teams, there is by definition a competition. This is my place, this is your place, there's a chiluk. And because of that, there is division, there is strife, there is contention. What they were amazed in Klal Yisrael is that Reuven could have his flag, Shimon could have his flag, Levi could have their flag, every tribe had their flag, and yet there was no division that did not cause machlekes in Klal Yisrael. That's what they wanted. How did that happen? How did God guarantee Moshe, you have nothing to worry about, this is not going to cause strife? Think about the way the Jews were camped in the desert. They were camped, starting from the outer tier, they were camped three tribes on either side, and then three tribes on the bottom. In other words, they were a square of three tribes on each side, north, south, east, and west. And the reason that they were north, south, east, and west, because from every direction of the compass, there's another koyach that comes into the world, another power, another energy that comes into the world. The three tribes that were together on each side, they were personifications of that koyach. The middle tribe personified it the most. Then the next tier in was another square of the Levitical families. And then in the center was the Mishkan. And as long as the Mishkan was in the center, as long as God, the divine presence, was the center focus of every single tribe, their flags were not going to cause strife and contention. Their flags were going to allow them to be able to become one, shalom, whole, because their flag said, I am this particular piece of that whole. I'm this particular piece of that center. I'm this particular piece of that center. And when everyone saw themselves as part of one whole, with the recognition that they had their contribution to make, that's how they were able to achieve shalom, shleimus, wholeness, because they saw themselves as a part of one entity. That's why Yerushalayim is called an Ir shechuber yachtov. It's a city that gathers us all together. I walked in with my minhagim, you walked in with your minhagim. I came from my place, you came from yours. But when we came into Yerushalayim, we were all dedicated to exactly the same thing. We were dedicated to God. We were dedicated to serving the Master of the universe. That's why when Isaiah talks about his future vision of what it's going to look like in Yemei Mashiach, it's a fascinating question. Why do we need Isaiah's prophecy of lambs lying with lions in the future? Why not say that you know what the future is going to look like? Noah's Ark. Lions lied with lambs in Noah's Ark. All the animals were together, especially if you hold that they didn't have separate chambers for the animals. So then they all lied together. That was a symbol of peace, of shleimus. Why are we using shleimus as the future vision of what's going to be, which we never saw? It's very hard for us to relate to that. If you want to teach me what shleimus is, go backwards and tell me shleimus is like what you saw once in the Teva, because that wasn't shleimus. They weren't dedicated to the same thing. They were all really trying to preserve their own lives. They happened to be stuck together for X amount of months, for a year, but they were just cooperating with each other. They weren't one. But in the future, Kimala Aretz Deo es Hashem, the world is going to be filled with the knowledge of God, and everyone is going to be dedicated to exactly the same thing. And that's what Shalom is. That's why it's very difficult for us to think of achieving peace with our neighbors in Olam Hazeh, because we're not out for the same thing. We can achieve cooperation, but not shalom, not shlemus. Because shalom means shalem, means whole, harmony. Everybody recognizing that they are all serving the same thing and that their purpose is exactly the same. That's what it means, Ohev Shalom, V'rodev Shalom. It does not mean to love cooperation, because that's not shlemus. That's just, whatever. It's a piece and it's good. It's not a bad thing, but it's not shlemus. Ohev Shalom, V'rodev Shalom means to love wholeness, means to teach, to be dedicated to everybody connecting together for the same, everybody dedicated to the same purpose. The Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur was able to go and put his hands on an animal, push down on the head of the animal, and to atone for the entire Jewish people. That smells of another religion. That one person dies for the sins of others? That a Kohen Gadol can atone for the sins of the others? You ate the cheeseburger and the Kohen Gadol can atone for it? What a deal! How does that work, that the Kohen Gadol can atone for something that you did? Because the Kohen Gadol was you. The Kohen Gadol carried the breastplate. It wasn't put in a box. Because the Kohen Gadol, if you think about it, the breastplate was the communication tool between us and God. It should have been planted on some desk in the inner chambers of the temple. And whenever he had to go, he would go, type into this special box his request to God, and it would come back by things lighting up. Sounds very familiar. Why wasn't it that way? It was worn on the clothing, on the garments of the Kohen Gadol, because the Kohen Gadol had to and was capable of carrying Klal Yisrael on his chest, carrying them in his heart. The Kohen Gadol had two places where every single tribe was etched into his garments. One was on the breastplate. Every single stone, there were 12 stones, and every single stone represented another tribe, and the name of the tribe was etched into the stone, so that when God communicated with them, he would communicate through the lighting up of the different letters. And then on the epaulets, on the shoulder pads of the Kohen Gadol, he had every tribe 6 on one side, 6 on the other side, because the Kohen Gadol carried every single Jew on his shoulders and in his heart, because he was a chelek, he was a connection to every single Jew, a part and a parcel. Now, the truth is, every one of us is. That's why we say that if a person comes, the first 10 people in a minyan, so a person comes to shul, he gets the schus of every single person, because he's connected to every single person that shows up after him. Every single soul, every single neshama is connected one to the other. The Kohen Gadol was able to appreciate that. He was able to feel it. Who was the first Kohen Gadol that felt that? That was Aaron. When Moshe Rabbeinu was chosen to lead the Jewish people, Moshe Rabbeinu said to God, one of his tainas of why he didn't want to take the job was because my brother is going to feel bad. God says to him, stop projecting. It's not your brother's problem. It's your problem. Your brother is shalom. Your brother's whole. He understands that you are needed, that you are the one who has to represent the Jewish people, that has to be the one who is going to go to Paro. He understands what his role is and what your role is. He's very comfortable with that. Aaron came out with such joy when he found out that Moshe Rabbeinu was going to lead the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. He was thrilled because Aaron was a shalom. Aaron was able to understand, you've got a place, I've got a place, and we're both working for the same boss and for the same goal. That's why the Mishna says, don't just love peace, having me talmidov shel Aaron, that you have to be from the students of Aaron, because the level of peace that you're achieving is not cooperation, which is what Ohev Shalom V'rodev Shalom would say to me. Cooperate with other people. That's what it would say. Get along with others. No, don't get along with others Be shalom with others to the extent that you feel that you're all doing and working for the exact same purpose. That's why we use Aaron as an example. Because having talmidav shel Aaron, you have to be not just, it doesn't say act like Aaron, you have to be a student of Aaron. What's a student? A student is somebody who is not only learning externally from the Rebbe, but somebody whose existence is becoming entwined with the Rebbe, who's thinking like, who is connected to his teacher. Having me talmidav shel Aaron, don't just do what Aaron did, be committed to the same things that Aaron is committed to. Oev shalom v'rodev shalom. It's not enough to love peace. You actually have to spend your energy pursuing it. Oev es habrios. You have to love people. Love people because you see them and yourself as part of the same whole. By definition, that will be makarev them to Torah. It will be makarev them to the emes, to truth. That's why we say that it's mutar l'shanos mipnei hashalom. This I have to do a little quickly, but it's mutar l'shanos mipnei hashalom. You can lie because of keeping peace, and it doesn't mean all kinds of lies. There are certain types of lies that are okay in order to be able to keep peace, and it's not that peace is greater than emes. Peace is the ultimate emes. That the ultimate realization that you and I are one and you and I are working for the same thing, you and I are committed to the same thing, that's the ultimate truth of this world. Maybe we'll have to deal with this tomorrow, but that's why Yaakov, isn't it crazy? Titain emes liYaakov, give truth to Jacob. Tell me Yaakov's life story. Oh, he tricked his brother, tricked his father, tricked his shver. Titain emes liYaakov? Really? Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow a little bit. But that's what Shalom is. What the Mishna is teaching me, the Mishna is not teaching me get along with people. No. It couldn't be, because if that was the case, it wouldn't be in Pirkei Avos, because every idiot knows that. The Mishna is teaching me, how do you achieve Shalom, Shleimus, wholeness? You achieve wholeness by realizing what you're dedicated to and what everybody else is dedicated to. And when you're committed to the same things, that by definition brings wholeness to Klal Yisrael.